Welcome to another episode of Life and Whiskey. As always, I am Jordan, trying something a little different. We got the microphone up front here. Hopefully that will improve audio quality slightly. Got my notes here on what I'm going to talk about, not necessarily on my tasting notes. And doing a little, another mini-series, a continuation of my elk hunting series. Had some requests to maybe provide a little bit more information. And so what I'm going to do is provide some like tips, tricks, hacks, I don't know, just information that you might not be thinking about already. If you are new to elk hunting or hunting in the mountains, if you're not familiar with hiking, camping, hunting, and just spending time out in the mountains, say you come from maybe like Illinois or Indiana or Wisconsin or Midwestern states or states east of the Mississippi where you just might not have had the opportunity to get out into the mountains, and so you're a little unfamiliar with what you're getting into, or if this is your very first elk hunting experience, the information I'm going to provide is going to help you knock down the learning curve on things that I had to learn while actually doing them. And there's just some small things, some safety stuff that will kind of help you out, and just more stuff to be mindful of while you're out there. And hopefully that'll kind of help you get going. So I'm going to do, I think I got 8 videos slated here to add into the elk hunting series. And we'll get our whiskey review in, and then we'll start down the information road here on Life and Whiskey. So, today's whiskey is David Nicholson Reserve. It's a 100 proof whiskey. It's made for the Lux Royal Company, and I picked up this bottle for $26.59 here locally in Wyoming. It's an NAS whiskey, so I'm not really sure what the age is on it. It says it was aged extra long, so whatever that means. I didn't do a lot of research on this whiskey or any of the whiskeys I want to do in this video series, because my main focus is more on the hunting side of things. I just want to do my whiskey review and maybe help you find something to sit and drink while you're doing some of your research and stuff before you get out and do one of your hunting trips. So let's do the whiskey review real quick here. As I said, it's a 100 proof whiskey, so it's a little bit higher proof than many. You know, you're kind of in the bottled and bond category, even though this one is not bottled and bond. Let's see, what else do I want to say about this? That's probably all I need to know about it. We're going to go straight into it. It's got some legs or fingers, depending on what you want to say, so it's got some viscosity to it. It's a really nice looking whiskey. Has a great smell. It's heavy in the corn dust, but then it moves into this light fruit, floral, ripe green apple. You know, so it takes on some of the characteristics of Four Roses, Buffalo Trace. We're back into that category. I know I use that as a descriptor often, but it's something that a lot of people are familiar with. And then if you get really in there, you can pick up some brown sugar and oak. The one thing that I have to say, surprisingly, for 100 proof that is not coming through is it's not very heavy on the ethanol in the nose. Which I really like that. But it's got a really nice nose, and it seems like it's going to be something worthy of exploring, and it'll treat you kind of right. So getting into the flavor profile, it's fairly complex. There's maybe 5 or 6 different notes in there. All of the notes are very smooth and rounded and transition from one to the next without any spiky, punchy bits. It started out sweet with corn dust, moved into this floral apple note. You kind of pick up some barrel tannin in there along the way. Dries out towards the finish. You get some Um, so like the beginning part of the finish actually has a sweet note on it, and then it moves into a dry oak tannin, black pepper spice on there. No ethanol burn at all whatsoever. Yeah, so very sweet forward, very apple forward, floral. The middle notes kind of pick up some of that oak as well, which is interesting. So you got a sweet, an oak, more sweet. You can pick up that brown sugar leading into the black pepper finish, and then oak finish and dry on the very end. There's a lot going on in here. I would say that this is definitely a bourbon that you should sit and explore a bit. It seems like there's even more in there to pick out, and it's an explorer type whiskey, and definitely one that's worthy of picking up, that because you're not going to break the bank with it at $26.59. Awesome price. The little collar tag here says it was voted best straight bourbon in, I think, 2017. I have to admit, this is a pretty nice bourbon, a very, very good exploratory bourbon, something that you could sit with all night and just kind of pick it apart. And so that's like my third sip, I believe. So from start to finish, I have to say this flavor profile has not really changed a whole lot, which is kind of nice. It really gives, because it's presenting the same flavor profile, it gives you time to pick out, the beginning couple of notes, the middle, and then the finish. So I really like that. So there you go. Please let me know what you can find this for in your area. Drop it in the comments below. Let me know what David Nicholson's going for in your area, and we'll get that collection of whiskey and prices put together for everybody. So one worth exploring. Go out, get yourself a bottle, see what you think. Hopefully this review will get you on track to finding something that you like. And really, I want to take just a brief second here and say that's the purpose of this channel, is to discuss whiskey, give you the reviews according to my palate, my thoughts, and hopefully that will help you find something. I highly encourage that you pick up a bottle of something that I have described and then drink it along with the video and see if you find what I'm finding. If you are, then you know that my reviews are going to line up very closely with your own personal palate. Now, you may or may not like the flavors that I'm describing, but if you find what I am finding, then you can use that to help guide you into a bottle or a category or a brand that you're going to like. So make sure you're giving that a try. I'm really trying to build this channel so that it is a valuable resource to you. So if you are finding it to be valuable, either with the life side of stuff where I'm talking about things I enjoy doing, things I see, the world around me, events taking place in my life. So it's kind of a vlog from that standpoint. But feel free to chime in the comments below if you do find value in this, or if you have something to add to the conversation, or if you would like to see something. Please make sure you throw that in the comments below, and then share the videos with your friends, family, or whomever you think would also gain some value from this content. And if you're not finding value in it, sure, you can just leave, but give me a thumbs down and then tell me in the comments what you needed to have different in order to find value. I know my audio's been a problem. I know my visual is not the best. I don't have the best equipment, but it's the message that I'm trying to get out there that I'm hoping is what you're finding value in. So as per some viewers' requests, that's why I'm going back to the elk hunting topic of conversation. And so this information is hopefully going to be valuable to the new elk hunters out there. And we are 2 months out from elk season, so time's a ticking here, so hopefully we can get things going. So we are 10 minutes into this conversation, so I will kind of go quickly on these topics here, and hopefully they'll be helpful to you. The first one is my broadheads. So I'm not going to focus so much on exactly what broadhead I use. I use the Muzzy MX3 125 grain. I found tremendous value in them. I think they're incredibly strong. I put one through an elk last year, had a complete pass through at 22 yards, and found my arrow, picked it up. It was still razor sharp, not a single nick on the blade, no rolling of the edges, and I just honed it up again, and that exact broadhead will be the same first arrow in my quiver this year. So that's why I use them. They also fly incredibly well out of my bow setup. My points, my field points, and my broadheads match, shot for shot, which is what you want. Sometimes a particular broadhead won't fly exactly like your field point. You can maneuver your bow rest and your sights and stuff to try and get the two to line up really, really close. If you can't get them to match perfectly, I would say, oftentimes that's a tuning problem, but sometimes it's not, and it's just the wrong broadhead. But if you are set on shooting that broadhead, sight your pins in to match your broadheads, and then just accept the fact that your field points are not going to shoot as well, or at the point of aim. That's my suggestion on that. But really focus on trying to find a broadhead that fits your setup, shoots really well out of your bow. Today's broadheads tend to shoot really well, most of them. I would also advise you to stick in the 125 and up grain broadheads, so 125, 150, 175, 200 grains. Get that point weight up. But that also means you need to know what you're doing when it comes to your arrow spine and all that other stuff. And then just find a broadhead that shoots well, that you find yourself being dependent on, that you like it, you have faith that it's going to work the way it's supposed to. And I would encourage you to avoid the mechanical broadheads, just because it is one more aspect that can fail while you're out in the woods, which could be extremely problematic, as a wounded elk can go miles. And when you're already beat down and tired and thinking you're at the zenith of your hunt, and then find out that, I gotta hike another 2 or 3 miles and spend another day tracking a blood trail and trying to find an animal, it's just rough. So try and make sure that whatever broadhead you're shooting will get the job done, and you have faith in that. Secondly, still on broadheads, make sure you hone, sharpen, strop, whatever it is you need to do so that those blades are razor sharp before your hunt. Before you jump in the truck to head to your hunting destination, if you're going to go on a 2-week, say you're from Kentucky and you're coming out to Colorado and you're going to be there for 2 weeks, before you jump in the truck to drive to Colorado, go ahead, sharpen those broadheads, make sure that they are at the absolute sharpest you can get them, and that they're holding their edges. So that's another little tip. I know a lot of people just take them out of the package, put them together, screw them into their arrow and shoot it, and go hunting, having never practiced with them, have no idea how they fly out of their setup, and have no idea how sharp they are. And most broadheads straight from the factory are not very sharp. So think about that. Next, kind of doubling down on that same concept, when you get to your destination, when you get to your base camp, after all that travel, you're going down Forest Service roads that are all rutted up and potholed. You just traveled, hundreds, if not 1,000 or plus miles to get to a location. You may have a hard case, you may have a soft case. You may have jumped into a side-by-side and went down a 2-track or some rugged 4-wheeler trail or something like that. When you get to your base camp and you unload your equipment, make sure you shoot that equipment. But before you loose that first arrow, make sure you visually look over your entire setup. Make sure that your arrow rest is still tight. Make sure your sight is still tight. Make sure that your string stopper, your silencers, your peep sights in the same location. I take a magic marker, I mark on my string with a marker where my peep sight is supposed to be, so that I can visually look at it and go, it's moved 1/8 of an inch or whatever out of whack. Even when you tie in a peep sight very, very tightly, it can still move on you depending on what's going on. So just visually look over everything, make sure there's no nicks in your strings, that your cams and your strings are lining up and everything like that. Then go ahead, take a shot or 2 or 3 or 5, and make sure all your equipment is still quiet and shooting as it should, because a lot of things can happen when you're in transit. The same is true, and here's something that a lot of people don't think about. So I always carry an additional arrow in my quiver that I specifically use for shooting grouse while I'm out there. Now, I use a 2.5-inch blade, mechanical expandable broadhead specifically for grouse. A lot of people will use small game judo points and whatnot because they won't bury into a tree or whatever, and they'll kill the animal, but they'll also not penetrate, so you can easily go pick up your arrow. For me personally, I like to keep that grouse arrow. It is it's for the fact that it has a broadhead on it means that if I have to, absolute last chance, I can still use that arrow to kill an elk or finish off an elk, I should say. That would never, like, if I shot 4 arrows and lost them all, I would not use that arrow to be my 5th and final shot on an elk. But 2 years ago, the elk I shot, once I got up on him, he was not fully expired. I put 3 more arrows into him, and he was still breathing. So I chose to use that mechanical broadhead arrow to be my final arrow into that animal. And I firmly believe that you shoot until the animal's fully expired, especially with archery. You're not exactly blowing up meat doing that. And I just want to make sure that there's no chance that that animal can get back up and take off, and that the animal doesn't have to suffer. That way I can make sure that that animal expires as quickly as possible. So something you might want to think about. But if you're out in the field doing whatever, if you drop your bowl, if you fall, if you hit some branches and stuff, make sure you visually look over everything, make sure nothing's changed. And if it was an exceptionally hard hit or something of concern, make sure you take an arrow and you shoot it and make sure that things are still shooting well. So that's a good opportunity to shoot that grouse arrow. If you want, you can carry, keep a broadhead set up on your grouse arrow, but then unscrew it and put a judo point on specifically to shoot a stump or something like that, so that you can double check your setup. That's a good way to go about it. A judo point doesn't weigh nothing. You can throw it in your backpack and just keep it there until you may need it. So something to think about. Finally, as I know this video is starting to get a little long at this point, but the final thing is bring extras. Okay, this, I see it on YouTube and whatever else. People go out into the woods and they're going on a week-long backpack hunt, and they'll only have 3 arrows with them or something like that. I always keep an extra dozen arrows and maybe 5 or 6 extra broadheads at the truck. I hunt from a base camp and I go out and come back every day, so I don't really worry about carrying it with me in the field. I'm only a couple of hours from my camp at any point in time, so if for some reason I'm having a horrible day and I lose 5 arrows, I can go back to camp, say at noon, grab more arrows, and I've already, at home I took those arrows and I tuned the arrows, I tuned the broadheads, I did everything to make sure they shoot just like the first set of arrows I had. I can throw them in my quiver, take off, and have an evening hunt. So make sure you have those arrows at least at a minimum in your truck or vehicle. If you need to, and you're on a backpack hunt, you can always come back to camp. Yes, it's a lot of wasted energy, and yes, it takes time and all that away from your hunt. But it's a lot better to go back to your truck than it is to go, oh crap, I don't have any arrows. Now I need to go into town. So now I got 2-3 hours down the mountain, couple hours into town. Maybe the next closest town that actually has a sporting goods store with your brand of whatever is a couple of hours away. Do they have the equipment that you use? Can they cut your arrows and get everything tuned up? Do they have the broadhead? So on and so forth. It's not a given that you can find what you shoot in every little town out in the wilderness of the mountain states. So bring extra arrows and broadheads, leave them in the truck. In my pack, I always have an Allen set that matches at least 90% of the fittings, the screws and stuff on my bow. I keep that with me because if something happens out in the field If it's minor, I can take care of it pretty easily. Just, adjusting my screws, adjusting my rest. If I need to take several shots and tune my bow back up, I can do that. So having a set of Allen keys can really save a hunt. They don't weigh a ton, especially if you get like the what brand is it? The yellow plastic coated ones, Alpine maybe. I don't remember the name, but I got them in the back there, but I'm not going to go get them right now. But if you use something like that, they're not extremely heavy, they're easy to carry, and they might just be a lifesaver for you. Another thing that I carry in my pack is a backup release. If you have an extremely engineered release where there's many springs and mechanisms and things that can go wrong, I would extremely encourage you to carry one, because at any point in time, dirt can get in there, other debris, a spring could fail or just pop out or whatever, and it can ruin your hunt. So having another release with you out in the field is a good idea. I carry one specifically because now my release that I shoot right now is pushing 7 years old. It's been through a lot of wear and tear, weather, and whatever else. It's leather on the wrist strap, so someday that leather is going to break down as it gets wet and then dries out, and so on and so forth. So I know it's going to fail at some point, and yes, I look at it and pay attention and try not to get it, or try and make sure that if it is going to fail, I can catch it before it actually happens. But you never know, so it's good to have one in your pack while you're out hunting. Just doing these things will keep you in the game, keep you tuned up, and if you do have a failure, it's not a game ender. It's not an entire trip ender. You can just get back to the truck, re-equip. Yep, you spent some energy, you spent some time, whatever. But maybe you're not finding the elk anyways, and so maybe it's a really good idea to go back to the truck and reposition. It's never a bad idea. But those are the types of things that I think you should have. Let's see here. I also keep one of those portable bow presses, the cable system things. That's an extreme circumstance. Personally, as long as my string or cables are not damaged, I know I can restring a bow, I can, tune things up and whatever else. So I feel pretty confident that if I have to do something like that, I can. If you don't feel as well versed in your equipment, I wouldn't worry about it too much. But for me, I know that if something's semi-simple happens, I can fix it with a portable bow press. If your string or cable or something gets severed or whatever, that's a game ender no matter what. I do have some older strings and cables that aren't all shot up. I carry them, in my extras pack. That's a personal thing. If I have to, I can swap out a cable or something, shoot some arrows at camp, tune my bow back up, and get right back into it. It might be something you want to consider. But, alright, so there we go. We're at 24 minutes there. I've spouted on long enough. That's just some stuff relating to your bow and equipment that you might want to think about that maybe you haven't thought about so far. Also, check out the David Nicholson Reserve. I think it's a really good bourbon. You might want to sit down and explore it one night. It's a nice bottle to have, and they did a really good job with it. So if you found any benefit to this video, please like, subscribe, share this video, and I would greatly appreciate it as I'm trying to grow this channel, and we'll catch you guys in the next video. Hope you're getting ready for this elk season and stuff, and the next several videos are just going to be more of this kind of information. The next video is going to be information about before you go on your trip. We're going to have foot and body care while you're out in the field, some things to think about that if you haven't done a lot of hiking, you will definitely want to pay attention to that video. Some health and luxury items, some other considerations, and a continuation of that. And then finally, the very last video, when that one drops, is going to be, that last two videos, are going to be elk hunting tips. So specifically things about elk hunting while you're out in the woods. things that you might want to think about. So thanks for watching as always, and I hope you guys have yourselves a great day, and I'll catch you in the next video.